Young Hearts, Open Minds, Helping Children Thrive in a Racially Diverse World is a comprehensive educational program that helps young children learn to embrace and celebrate differences. We want your child and all children to feel important, valuable, worthy, and lovable. To ensure that happens, when we talk about race, it's better to take what's called a color-conscious approach than a color-blind one. A color-conscious approach means you're aware of and embracing differences and doing so in an age-appropriate way. A color-conscious approach is critical to preventing the development of racial bias in very young children. How do children develop race bias? The same way they learn about everything, through association, reinforcement, and modeling. Parents, teachers, and other children model and reinforce certain ideals and behaviors, often without realizing it. Young children see who the hero is on TV and in books, and who is the villain. Children see how their parents and teachers interact with and respond to people who are different than they are. There's a common myth that young children are colorblind, that they don't notice race, but that's just not true. Research clearly shows young children see and are curious about differences in others, including skin color, hair texture, facial features, and language from a very early age. In fact, babies recognize differences in skin color as early as 6 months, and infants have strong preferences for what's familiar, the people, objects, sights, and sounds they encounter most often. These preferences can carry throughout their younger years and into adulthood. Studies show that by age 2, children begin to ask questions about physical differences. By age 3, nearly 70% of children, when given a stack of photos to sort that differ by race and gender, choose to sort them by race. Researchers have recorded prejudice in young children in many studies over many years. While the seeds of racial bias start in infancy, they sprout between 3 and 5 years old, when young children are developing racial stereotypes and prejudice. These biases are shown to increase until about age 7. Research also shows families of color are more likely to be open about discussions of race than white families, and they may buy toys and books that reflect their racial and cultural backgrounds. Many families of color talk to their children about potential or actual discrimination they have or may encounter and how to deal with it. In contrast, white families tend to talk less about race with their children than families of color. Much of our society views whiteness as the norm, so white families don't believe they need to talk about race very much, if at all. Or they may be uncomfortable talking about race or unsure about how best to do so. Sometimes when young children do talk about race or express bias, parents or teachers dismiss them instead of talking through the child's questions and comments to understand their meaning and intention. As a result, even very young children notice and perceive that talking about race is not okay. The teachers in your childcare center or preschool are learning how to talk about race with young children by partnering with Young Hearts, Open Minds. We're happy to have them on board. To learn more, visit youngheartsopenminds.org. Together, we can help children thrive in a racially diverse world by working to stop bias, particularly racial bias, before it starts.